I saw this movie back in April. It was like added to the Dallas International Film Festival last minute. Like I just happened to refresh the page and saw that it was on there, and so I called my buddy. I was like, "All right, Mark Duplass movie's in there. We gotta go." So we went to go see it, and we were blown away.
Oh, thanks, man.
So I walked into it blind. I didn't know what it was about. I just knew that you guys were involved, and that was good enough for me. And so I'm wondering if you've ever had an experience like that where you walked into a movie where you didn't really know much about it, but you walked out and you felt that life was different.
You know, it's interesting you say that because my brother and I, you know, work together, and over the years we've become very careful with each other when we watch a movie that we know that the other one's going to like. We get protective of the information we get. We're also protective in how we talk about it, and we've come to know each other. So like, for instance, when my brother sees something great, and if he comes to me and it's like, yeah, you know, you might want to check it out, I'm like, oh, you're underselling it. It fucking blew you away. You loved it, and you're trying to hide it from me so you'll enjoy it, you know? And usually the way it happens with me now is less a movie in the theater, because it's kind of hard to avoid finding something out. It's usually like a Netflix documentary that can sneak up on you, or something like that. You know, I mean, I watched this movie called The Horse Boy on Netflix that was a doc that somebody got me on. They were like, yeah, you should check it out. It's not that great, but, you know, it's got some cool stuff in it, you know, and it just wrecked me, changed everything. It's a movie on HBO called Every Fucking Day of My Life. That was just one of those HBO docs that Jay got me on that one. Yeah. He totally got me. Do you have any?
I haven't seen that. I had that with the dog as well with The Imposter. Did you see that?
Oh,
The Imposter was something where it's like, obviously you kind of know that it's about an imposter.
Right.
But I saw that and I was in bed. It was like 2 in the morning. I was jet lagged. My girlfriend was asleep, and something happens at the end of that where I literally did one of these like, oh my god, what? And like she's asleep, and I like wanted to wake her up to be like, you don't understand what just happened here, and like, but of course she would have just gotten really mad at me.
I'm gonna rewind the movie, and I'm gonna watch you watch it.
Just watch the next part, and it just blew me away. Stuff like that's really fun to be able to experience, and we hope that that's, you know, what our movie does for other people.
It's on. I have three this year that did that, and this is one of them. Boyhood.
Yeah.
And I Origins. I don't know if you've heard.
Yeah, we love those guys. We know those guys. They're great.
Yeah. But I wanted to thank you for how you marketed this film, because I was a little upset with how I Origins did it, because they put all the biggest parts in the film. And luckily I didn't watch the trailer, but my wife was like, so what's I Origins about? And I said, well, let's just watch the trailer. And then I was like, oh, that was just a spark noted version of it. But the trailer didn't reveal anything, so thank you.
Yeah, you know, it's funny, when we premiered the movie at Sundance, we kind of assumed that everyone would spoil the plot. And the reviewers were kind of the first ones who were very respectful, saying, we liked this movie, we liked seeing it not knowing anything, and we're not going to say anything about it. And it became a discussion with our distributor, like, can we take out a movie without telling people what it's about? And is that the kiss of death, or is that going to be really brilliant? And we don't know yet. We will see. I do think there's going to be certain people who are going to be like, I don't know enough about this movie to buy a $12 ticket to go see it. But I think that there are going to be other people who are going to be like, kind of intrigued by it. Yeah. Hopefully, you know, they'll either have seen some of my movies in the past, or they'll know Charlie's book, or they'll have loved Lizzie and Mad Men and they'll come anyway. It's a little bit of an experiment. We don't really know how it's going to shake out.
It kind of worked for Coherence, same type of thing.
I think so. Yeah. But you know, our goal is to make like $300 billion in the movie theaters. Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah.
No, like 200.
But besides what happens after the twist, this movie is about a couple going to retreat to kind of jumpstart their relationship again. From your experience, from your own relationships and your friends, what do you think makes love last through its ups and downs?
It's so different. It's funny you ask that. I mean, it's so different for everyone. And I'm just in this place in my life where, thank God, I don't live in a third world country, and like famine and murder and genocide are not my issues. My issues are about my relationships, you know, and so I get to think about this stuff and work on this stuff. And you know, for me and my wife, it's some very simple things like very clear communication, trying to catch ourselves when we're being too defensive, trying to have the ability to laugh at ourselves when we're in arguments, and then most importantly, trying to like only expect that the other person can do really 75% of the stuff that you want them to do and be forgiving when they don't.
Absolutely.
But you know, I have other friends who are have much more strict standards, you know, and they are single and they are waiting for the ultimate, and I think they are always questioning, like, oh, maybe I should have gone with that last guy. He was pretty good, you know? And they're like, no, I believe there's something better out there, you know. So it's so different for everybody.
Over the years, I've talked to a couple filmmakers that have said that the work you do is a bit of a reflection of yourself. Writers, actors, directors try to incorporate what they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what they're experiencing into their work. Is this something that you guys agree with? Is there a particular project that you've done that you feel like best represents who you are?
Yeah, I think this is, and I don't know if we consciously set out to make a movie that like, this is a part of me here, but I think it's the way that our brains work, it's the questions that we have, it's the questions that we wanted to propose. We might not have the answers to those questions, but we find it an interesting place to kind of play in. And so I think, you know, me, Mark, Justin later, Elizabeth, Mel Eslin, our producer, it's kind of all of us coming together and discussing, okay, well, this is my point of view on a relationship, or these are my thoughts, and it was a way to kind of bring them all together and kind of flesh out these characters and make them feel like they are real people with a rich history. And that was really important for us from the very beginning, is making sure that this couple feels like they are at the place that they are at, and we believe that. And so that was kind of our starting off point.
Yeah, I mean, every time I talk to like young filmmakers about, you know, they'll be like, well, how did you find your voice, and how did you find what you want to be making movies about? And the thing that's kind of distilled for me over the years is like, you know, the conversation you end up having somewhere between 1 and 4 in the morning after a long night, and you're with your close group of friends or your loved ones around a fire pit or whatever, and you're laughing and sad at the same time. Like that's where your stuff is. That's what the stuff you should be making your movies about. And for me, it always comes down to our relationships and how well are people getting along, and why are we having these problems, and what's going on. Like it just keeps distilling into that. And so what we're doing with a movie like the one I love is to continue to mine that stuff, but try not to do it in a repetitive way. And that's kind of where the sci-fi element, where that big plot bomb comes in, is to take those old themes that we love, you know, the sadness and the comedy of interpersonal relationship hell, but try and blow it up into a more, I guess, magically real environment.
Right, absolutely. And you're both writers. I know you've done the short Bye Bye Benjamin, and I'm sure you've done more projects than just that. And you have so many projects that I love. Like this year, I loved Creep, and I've been talking about it and singing the Peach Fuzz song all year. But do you ever find that because you're writers, that trying to think of a way to kind of get this out, like your ideas as writers ever intrude on projects where you're working strictly as an actor or strictly as a director?
Oh yeah, because you're a writer, you kind of can't turn that writer element of yourself off. Well, you know, in all honesty, as a performer, I think one of my biggest strengths is being a performer-writer, because a lot of the things I do are at least partially improvised, or in some cases fully improvised. And you know, while I look at a performer like Elizabeth Moss, who turns out can do it all, she does so much with her eyes and so few words. I've tended to lean on my words as a performer to express myself, and I actually learned a lot from her in this movie about trying to just shut up and be a little more quiet and less verbose. And so I think that my writer brain is always on. It's not necessarily a bad thing. I'm not like the point where I walk on the set of Zero Dark 30 and I'm like, hey guys, let's rewrite this scene. Like, I'm not that guy, but I'm nuancing and using that brain a little bit to kind of shuck and jive. And I think it allows you to make your performance, you know, 10 to 20% more organic if you can kind of like shuck and jive a little bit.
Yeah, I think for me, just as a director, it all connects, and that, you know, it's just an extension of telling the story from the script, you know, and then when you get into post, it's the same thing. You're sort of throwing everything out. What do you have? You're creating a kind of new story. Yeah. So I think, to me, they all sort of connect and relate to one another. I have no interest in being an actor, so I have no idea what that would be like to be on the other side of the camera, but I think behind the camera, we're all sort of kind of doing the same thing and working together.
Definitely. And this is my last question, and this is a question that I usually ask because I used to write for my university, but I just graduated last week.
Congratulations.
So thank you so much. But I should retire this question, but I just love it so much, and I'd love to conclude on it. So if you guys could teach a college course of your creation, it doesn't have to be a history class, it can be whatever you want, what do you think you would teach?
I think the thing that I would be uniquely good at is a micro-budget filmmaking course. I would take the film students just through my personal experience. It's not the only way to become successful, but the one that I know can work without any connections in the industry at all, is making your own stuff cheaply and quickly and making lots of it. It would be a course of making a 5-minute or less movie every weekend on your iPhone until you figure out what you're good at, and then as soon as you're good at that, take that and try and turn it into a feature.
Can I be your TA?
Yeah, bro.
That would be my,
Yes,
that's it. I just want to be his TA.
Yeah.